Good morning, and thank you for waking up with Edie Darling. I truly count it a privilege and a blessing to come before you. Well, yesterday we had an opportunity to hear a powerful word from the Lord titled Warriors for Christ. And what we found is that God is raising up a group of people who will not be ashamed to go out and spread his truth. But before we do that, what he's saying is, I need to prepare you. I need to get you ready. How do I get you ready? Well, first of all, you've already acknowledged that you've accepted Jesus as your personal Savior. And he's said to you, you need to get your house in order. And he's talking about that spiritual man, that inner man. How do you get that inner man changed? Well, it's not for you to go out and judge other people. That's for sure. Because God said, judge not, lest ye be judged. But what God is saying to you, that before you can go out and share his truth with others, you need to have truth revealed in you. Because there is something about each of us that needs to be changed, and everybody's situation is different. So I'm going to be a little transparent this morning. God has a funny way of sharing things with people. But he says, if you want to help my people, I need you to share your stories. Well, I was always one to never back down from an argument. I will argue with my family and friends. I don't want to say my family and friends, but mostly my family. And if they're watching, they know. I argue with my husband. And this went on for years. When you've been in law enforcement and you've grown up with a bunch of brothers, you got to learn how to defend yourself. So I found myself in a stance of defense. But I'll never forget when I turned 40. I had this desire to want to go on a sabbatical. And I've gone on many sabbaticals in my life. But I didn't want a birthday party. I just wanted to be alone with God. I wanted him to speak to me. Because he had been revealing some things in my life. But this time I wanted to get alone with him. And at that moment that I got alone with him, he began to show me my faults. You always pointing your finger at everybody else, but start pointing your fingers at yourself. You like to argue. So God began to show me every argument that I ever had, and how he said that those arguments cut him. They pierced him. And it saddened God. Well, here was me who had said I want to live my life for the Lord, and the last thing that I ever want to do is to disappoint God, because it matters to me what God thinks of me and not what everybody else thinks of me. So I vowed when I got home that I wasn't going to argue with anybody. But you know how the enemy always wants to put you to your test. As soon as I got home, everybody wanted to argue with me about something. And I kept telling them, I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to argue. I walked out many a times because I said, I'm not going to entertain these arguments. I've changed. I'm changing on the inside. God pointed this out to me, and I'm going to change. I'll never forget this last time I argued. And God prepared me. He prepared me and let me see it before it even happened. Not the argument itself, but what was yet to come before the argument and the spiritual realm. I'll never forget, I was walking up the stairwell and I saw a trail of blood in the spirit realm now. Little droplets of blood going up the stairwell, leading through the kitchen and leading into the dining room. Then as I'm walking back towards the stairwell, I see a trail of blood from the stairs onto the carpet and into the bathroom. And now I'm in prayer. I'm like, Lord, what is going on? It wasn't like it was a whole gushing amount of blood, but it was visible that something had happened to cause this vision to happen. Well, we were all sitting down to dinner. And dinner time was always seemingly the place to have all the arguments. You have to know something. I can't eat if people are arguing. My stomach had a tendency of going into, I call a tizzy. If I tried to eat, I couldn't eat. So that was the only time that I could really sit down and try to consume something. Well, everybody at the table started arguing. My husband started arguing. The kids started arguing. And I just picked up this plate, my plate, and I slammed it onto the floor and I said, enough is enough. And I wound up stepping on one of the pieces of the glass and cut my foot. And that was a trail of blood that I had seen in the spiritual realm that was now in the natural realm. And I trailed that blood from the dining room through the kitchen, down the stairwell, onto the carpet, and into the bathroom, and into the shower. You see, God, when He is preparing you for something, He wants you to understand that when you say you are surrendering to Him, He'll begin to show you all the things that you need to do in order to change, in order to be that true ambassador for Him. And at that moment, I was speaking that I was not going to argue, that nothing was going to cause me to argue. But that extreme for me was all that it took, that I would not argue anymore. And I have not argued with anybody since that time. At that moment, peace began to shower down upon me. God began to fill me with His peace to let me know that I don't have to act like everybody else. I don't have to prove myself. I don't have to challenge, be on the defense of things, because God defends me. God will give you the peace. God will begin to show you areas in your life that need to be changed. And in God, you will be changed. I pray this message blesses you this morning. Peace and blessings to you, my friends. Peace and blessings.